So we're looking at Shelby Foote. And in my last video, I focused on the last name Foote, F-O-O-T-E. With the E on the end of foot, it's a reference to a deformity, an irregularity. And so this man on stage, woman internally, is a deceiver. So looking at the first name, Shelby, she, S-H-E, and then the E-L, L for God, and then B. Now it's pronounced shall be. It shall be. It shall be. In other words, it's a way of insisting on falsehood. It shall be. And the origin is a willow from the ledge estate. So a willow, a weeping willow, they used to refer to weeping in the Civil War because of all the phony, false death. Now there would have been some actual death, and the actual death would have come from accidents and disease. But no deaths from people shooting bullets at each other and trying to blow each other up with stupid cannonballs that probably are half fake too. But anyhow, we're going to go to Mr. Shelby Foote. And here he is. Here she is. There's the one who shall be. So we're going to join in on this Bookspan interview. And there's something I want to draw your attention to here a little bit later. So you'll have to listen first of all. This is about 5 minutes into the interview already. It's 1994 interview, C-SPAN.
I had all kind of reactions to that happening, but it sold books. That's the glorious thing about it. The war had...
It sold books. That's the glorious thing. Not getting truth out, that's not glorious. That's why those of us that are on YouTube making these videos, we don't hear those words. Oh, that's so glorious, it sold books. No, the most glorious event for me is if one person says something to me in a comment that they've appreciated my efforts. And that's what's glorious to me. But for Shelby, it's selling books. Because the love of money is the root of all evil. Now you notice that this actor is almost in a constant state of duping delight. You can see it on the face that she wants to break out into big smiles. Well, let's go on in the interview.
It stayed in hardcover, but it also came out in Vintage, which is a softback subsidiary of Random, and it took off like a skyrocket after this television program.
Up till that program, do you know how many copies were sold?
It sold rather well. It did well. It got good reviews for all 3 volumes and was selling well. But it really took off after the television.
Any idea how many?
Volume 1 is in its 21st edition now, I think. It's a huge number.
Would that mean hundreds of thousands of books?
Yes, for the 3 volumes.
So what's happened to you since you've been seen by so many people?
I I get this strange star quality reaction from people, which I find rather unpleasant, really. Crossing an airport or going somewhere to dinner or something, there are people who come over and say how much they
enjoyed the war. I'll back it up a little bit so you can hear that. Enjoyed the war. Enjoyed the fantasy.
Pleasant, really. Crossing an airport or going somewhere to dinner or something, there are people who come over and say how much they enjoyed the war. I haven't yet had anyone come up to
how much they enjoyed the war. Tell me something. If war was real, R-E-A-L, would you be enjoying a war?
Trouble to say they didn't enjoy it, but they did.
See, look at the giggle. The giggle, the laugh. Because they make up bull malarkey. And the public loves this malarkey. Later on in the interview, he will tell you he didn't even put any footnotes in it or documentation of anything. That's for another video.
Come over and say,
How do you deal with it?
I tell them that I'm glad to hear it. And one reason I'm so glad to hear it, aside from personal vanity, is I'm always pleased to know that I might have had something to do with people beginning to understand the American Civil War, which I think is enormously important for every American citizen.
What's important for every American to understand is you've been lied to. Not only have you been lied to about the Civil War, you've been lied to about every single war in America's history. And if you do any computation and realize what is the period of time America's been at war, about 92% of the history. Which means you've been in a constant state of being lied to. And war is the #1 lie. And it's brought to you by liars like Shelby, Foote, deformity.
That you didn't like to sign books.
I don't sign books except for close friends. And I do it for two reasons. One is I think it makes it mean something that way when you do sign it. And the other is I'm saving myself and an awful lot of other people a lot of trouble not fooling around that autographing business. I think it's ridiculous.
When did you decide to do this?
Early on, way back when I was writing first novel, I did it that way.
Do you find people get mad at you because you won't do it?
Occasionally somebody gets mad, but mostly when I tell them why, they say, I understand that. Yes, that's right. They even approve of it. Yeah.
When did you first get interested in the Civil War?
Any Deep South boy, anyhow, and probably all Southern boys who know they've been familiar with the Civil War as a sort of thing in their conscience going back.
Okay, now I'm going to take you here in just a minute to something else by Carl Jung. But for right now, we'll let him finish. He's basically saying that if you're a Southern boy and you're born, somehow it's deep in your unconscious. It's witchcraft.
I honestly believe that it's in all our subconsciouses. This country was into its adolescence at the time of the Civil War. It really was. It hadn't fought.
Did you hear what he said? I believe it's already there. We'll get to that in just a minute. You're looking at a Jungian concept. You're born with this stuff in you.
Itself really as an adult nation. And the Civil War did that. And like all traumatic experiences that you might have had in your adolescence, it stays with you the rest of your life.
So you're born with this in you, and it's a trauma that you didn't even live through.
Your subconscious, most likely in your conscience too. And I think that the Civil War had the nature of that kind of experience for the country. We now recognize, anybody who's looked into it at all, realizes that it truly is the outstanding event in American history insofar as making us what we are. The kind of country we are emerged from the Civil War, not from the Revolution. The Revolution provided us with the Constitution. It broke us loose.
The Constitution. The American Revolution War was a hoax too. The document that came out of it was a con. People have so much faith in what they call the Founding Fathers and the Constitution. Well, that's a whole bunch of other videos as well. But just focusing in on what she is trying to say about a collective unconsciousness, and that it's kind of already deeply embedded in people before they're even born.
Made us free, made us men, but the Civil War really defined us. It said what we were going to be, and it said what we're not going to be. It drifted away from...
Oh, how about it said what we shall be? Shall be Foote. A deformity. A perversion. A lie.
Mostly Virginia influence up into the New England and Middle Western influence. And we became that kind of nation instead of the other kind of nation.
What would have happened if...
Okay, now we're going to go to the Jungian concept that he's referring to. And I'll play a video on that.
In the early 20th century, the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, introduced the idea that human beings are motivated not by outside forces such as God or fate, but instead by the inner workings of our own minds. Freud's protege, the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, took this idea a step further when he observed that the majority of the world's cultures appear to share an uncanny commonality in their mythology and symbolism, and have done for thousands of years. To Jung, this suggested that there must, in a sense, be a core programming or architecture of thought that all human minds have in common, and this he called the collective unconscious.
So the collective unconscious is kind of a programming you're born with. And I'll be honest with you, the author of the programming is the devil. And that's the reference that was being made by Shelby Foote, the deformed foot woman speaking, invoking witchcraft. And this is witchcraft. Basically saying the devil controls all minds at birth and puts stuff in them.
According to Jung, the collective unconscious is the same for all humans, and it manifests in particular emotional and behavioral patterns, which Jung referred to as archetypes. The word archetype comes from the Greek for first moulded, as Jung believed that these conserved manifestations of the collective unconscious have been moulded over time by the cumulative experience of our ancestors, and have been passed down from generation to generation.
So you see, that's kind of what Shelby Foote, deformed foot woman, was trying to get at, that basically, if you're a Southern boy, you're born with the Civil War in you. And if you're a devil worshiper, you inflict the devil's system on the listeners of your lies.
Now, it is important to note that in Jung's view, the human psyche is divided into three parts.
Okay, I'm going to stop it here, but before I stop it, I need to give credit to the one whose video I'm using here, and it's right over here called Give Me 5. Do humans share a collective unconscious? And this individual did a very nice job with this video, and I borrowed it for mine. So I do want to give praise and thanks to the author of that particular video for their work. And I'd like to thank you for watching. And I'd like to remind you that you don't need to buy into any of Jung's Jungian nonsense. And you don't need to buy into any of the Shelby Foote nonsense. You can just turn yourself over to the author of true history, God Almighty, and his actual fact book is the Bible. Many people don't want to touch the Bible, but the Bible has your answers in this world. And Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. And if you want to get away from these liars, the Shelby, deformed Foote liar, and others, you go to the Holy Word of God and trust in Jesus Christ. Thank you for watching. End of video.